Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on how to build the perfect customer-facing dashboard today. We're just going to give people a few more minutes to join. While we're waiting, feel free to let us know in the chat where you're tuning in from today and what you would like to learn, so that hopefully we can tackle some of the questions or topics in this webinar today. So we'll just wait for a few minutes and then we'll get started. All right, I think we can get started. Late joiners can still begin later, of course. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting topic lined up. So how to build the perfect customer-facing dashboard. Just a bit of housekeeping. Me and Yannick will be your hosts today. We both work at Luzmo, so for those who don't know Luzmo yet or don't know it very well yet, it's an embedded analytics platform. So we help SaaS companies, software products launch analytical features that are customer facing to launch them quickly and easily with a sort of building block to create data visualizations and interactive analytics. We've both worked at the company for quite a long time. Yannick as a product manager, previously as a developer as well, so he knows the product very well. I work as a content marketer, so I've done a lot of research as well into what the best practices are to build a really good dashboard that brings value to your customers. So if you have any questions at any point around this topic, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat, of course. In terms of the agenda, we're gonna tackle actually all the steps that are involved in building a customer-facing dashboard, all the way starting from preparing your analytics sprint and scoping the dashboard up to getting it deployed inside your product. So looking at what a good dashboard should look like, how you can make it more engaging for users and improve the user experience, getting it inside your application and some best practices for embedding a dashboard. And then finally, we'll end with some tips for a speedier launch, so how you can speed up this entire process to bring it to your customers faster. We'll end with Q&A, so again, keep those questions coming in the chat. We'll tackle all of these at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I think we can jump into the first part. I launched a poll earlier, so in the polls tab, feel free to leave your answer there as well. If you've joined the webinar today and you're not offering any analytics to your customers yet, this section is probably going to be interesting. I know some of you that join might already have analytics in some form or shape that are customer facing. But if you're still starting out, your first question is probably going to be, what are we actually looking at building? It's important to scope that out very well, because if you don't do that at the beginning, you risk building something that your customers might not even need. You also risk delaying the project, because you might have more back and forth between engineering if the requirements aren't clear, if it's not clear which metrics are going to be included or not. Also with go-to-market teams, if there's no clear plan on when this will be launched, what the scope will be, what will be the first version of your analytics or analytical features. If that isn't clear right from the start, you might be running into problems later. The good news is, though, that if you do the preparation well, you've already won half of the battle and you can avoid some of these problems. What we recommend is usually there are 3 simple questions that you can ask yourself before you start building any type of dashboard. They seem very obvious, but they can already be a huge help. So just thinking about who are the users of my platform. You're, for example, going to show very different metrics to a CEO than you're going to show to a customer success person or someone in operations. The next thing is you want to know what they are trying to achieve with your software, so overall with your software, because the analytics that you're going to show, the dashboards, the metrics are always going to be a supporting factor of what they're trying to achieve with your platform. So the next question will also be which metric will help them achieve those goals, because you want to bring more value with these customer-facing analytics. So you want to make sure that it supports the overall goal that they're trying to achieve with your platform. So for a marketing platform, that could be attracting more leads, more engagement with your audience, etc., etc. To make that a bit more specific, we do have some tips also to scope out your sprint well that we've seen work really well with customers, with companies that we've talked to. One of them being just looking at the support tickets that you currently have in the backlog. You'll oftentimes see people asking for specific reports, specific data points that they want from your application. So just going through these, analyzing which ones are the most asked will probably give you a good indication of where you should start and what are the most basic metrics that a lot of your users will get value out of. Another good idea is interviewing customers, especially power users, so people who use your platform very frequently, because that gives you a really good indication of how they're using the platform, how they're getting value out of it, and which metrics could help them support them to achieve those goals. That might give you a bit of a biased view if you're just interviewing some customers. So if you have a lot of users and you want to take this research more broadly, you could also run a survey, for example, through email or through in-app notifications to get some input from your customers on which metrics, which reports they would really like to see. You could also analyze usage statistics, see which features, which tabs, which functionalities of your platform users are using the most, and then based off of that, decide on what type of dashboards you'll need to include insights that have to do with these specific aspects of your product. And then finally, after doing any or all of these, you might end up with a very long list of metrics still. So then it really comes down to prioritization. There are a bunch of prioritization frameworks that you can use. If any product managers are attending today, I'm sure you know about a lot of them. But these can really help you to separate the must-haves from the nice-to-haves and build out a scope for a first dashboard or first set of dashboards that you want to deploy in your application. Once you've decided what to build, the next thing is going to be building the actual dashboard. And a lot of the experience of that dashboard, of those analytics, is going to depend on how you structure that dashboard. User experience there is often an overseen aspect that can really do wonders for your product usage. So for example, we had one of our customers, they have a platform in the real estate sector, so it's a tenant management platform. They used to have no reporting inside of their application, so they just used a tool like, I don't remember if it was Tableau or Power BI, but a separate BI tool from their application. So users had to go outside of their application to analyze their data. So they had decided to do a whole revamp of their analytics offering, bringing the insights inside of their application, but also making sure that the dashboard that they built was very clean, very clear, easy to navigate, and immediately clear with all the most important KPIs. The result for them was that they actually received 80% less requests from customers asking for custom reports, data exports, all of that stuff. So the impact on also your customer support load could potentially be massive if you invest in a good UX of your analytical features. To talk through that, I'll just quickly share. I think it's always more useful to see it in action rather than to explain it. But I'll quickly share a dashboard as an example and just walk you through kind of the best practices of how to structure your dashboard to make sure it's easily readable, it's easy to use, and insights are available directly for users when they look at it. The first tip here that I would give is to use your dashboard to tell a story. So this dashboard here is a dashboard for an e-commerce platform where you can manage different web shops that you have and see mostly the revenue numbers for your web shop. So let's say, for example, we want to look at the Fashionista web shop. How is it doing in the last month or so? Giving it a little bit of time to load. Sorry. Let me quickly refresh. I still have this open from previously. That looks better. So if we look at the Fashionista web shop, what you can see here is immediately in one glance, you can already kind of tell what is happening. You see all of these red numbers, revenues going down, profits going down, inventory sold is not on target. So you can kind of tell in one glance what is happening with your web shop at this very moment. So using that sort of layout and using these details to make that clear in one visual glance is going to help your customers get insights faster from their data, and it's also going to help you boost usage of the dashboard because they'll see this and be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Why is this? Can we see trends over time? Can we see like the different products, for example? Do we see a decrease for one specific product? They can start filtering down and really get to those key actions that they can take to get the revenue back up again. So really try to tell a story with the dashboard. That also means limiting your dashboard to essential information. So try not to make it too much of a scroll, but really limit to max 7 to 9 items. There are some clever ways that you can deal with that with interactivity, like being able to pick metrics here that basically consolidates 6 charts into one, but still makes it very interactive to find the information that you want. Also avoid visual distractions. So for example, for this revenue number, you don't need any decimals behind it. You could have even left out the decimals here as well. Don't use too much color. So we decided to use it here, for example, to immediately show whether you are doing well on this target or not. Also use tooltips and labels to convey any extra context here. For example, you can see that if you filter all the web shops again, it says that the web shop platform experienced some technical issues in July and December. So that immediately gives the user some clue of, okay, that's why these revenue numbers are down a little bit. Make sure you use big enough fonts so that everything is readable. Make sure it's not too big also so that you have titles cut off and that sort of stuff. Order your items from top left to bottom right. To start with the most crucial information, which is just they want to see the total revenue of their web shops, and then go down into more detailed information, like the revenue per product and per category, where you can interactively zoom, or the total revenue per country to see your biggest markets, for example. Maybe a note on chart types. Also make sure that you're using the right chart type for the purpose you have. A map, for example, is way easier to display geographical data than, let's say, you'd have a bar chart that has the total revenue per country, or like this bubble chart. It's way easier to see adjacent markets doing very well, like, for example, the Nordics here, and some less performance in the more southern markets in Europe. So using the right chart type there can also be a great tip. I think that's all in terms of the dashboard structure. I'll hand it over here to Jannik.
All right, thanks, Mieke, for the great tips on how to build good dashboards. I'll take over the screen sharing indeed. So once with the tips of Mieke, you've built a good dashboard. Of course, you don't want your users just staring at your dashboards. You also want them to engage and interact with your dashboards, which in the end drives user satisfaction as well. To do this, Luzmo provides a couple of cool features that enable dashboard interaction. I will briefly run over them first and then do a small demonstration of those. So to make the dashboard interactive, you can add filter items that allow your users to slice and dice the data and get more detailed insights. Additionally, you can let your users also trigger actions while they'll filter. So we call this bidirectional communication, which is communication between the dashboard and your application, which can enable all kinds of cool use cases. Mieke demonstrated it already, but with our measure dimension picker, you can let the user choose which metric they want to see in a chart. And this can drastically simplify your dashboards by reducing the number of charts that's needed per dashboard. You can also enable drill down or drill through into specific data points to get more detail on those specific data points or a deeper level of insights. Something that's also very powerful is routing users to other dashboards or to other parts of your application just by clicking on a chart. This enables you to deeply intertwine your analytics module and your dashboards with the rest of your application. And by using the custom events feature, it's possible to configure more advanced workflows right from your dashboards. I'll show a cool example of that, a customer example of that one later. And with alerts, it's also possible to let your users set up an alert that notifies them when a KPI crosses a certain threshold. So this engages your users even when they're not looking at the dashboards, for example, by receiving emails or Slack messages that the KPI went above or below a certain threshold. And as a last bonus tip, you can even empower your users to make edits to your embedded dashboards. For example, you could offer a base dashboard template that your end users can tweak. So our powerful embedded dashboard editor enables all of this, and it's too much to cover in just this webinar, so we have a separate webinar just about that topic. So if you're interested in that one, leave a comment in the chat and we can send you the webinar about that one. It's of course cooler if you can see these features for interactivity, so I'll briefly show them as well. So here we have a sample application of an embedded dashboard, which could be your application. So we have standard navigation and then the embedded dashboard. So I spoke about filter items, which users can use to slice and dice the data. So here we have an example of an age filter. So for example, we can limit the ages to this, and going even further, if we limit the gender to male, for example, we can use what I called bidirectional communication to do custom actions with this. So I selected a subsegment of users in this campaign. And if I now click this button, for example, I can choose to target this segment. We see the filters that I set up in the dashboard, and I can click this button to send the campaign to 69 users, only the users that match my filters. So you can extract the filters and the data from the dashboards to then use that in further workflows. For example, sending an email campaign to a subset of users. Another example that Mika already showed is the measure dimension picker. So here we have a bar chart with a measure dimension picker, and it's right now showing number of clicks per campaign. But if I want to see, for example, instead the average cost per click for the campaign, I can use the measure dimension picker here to select that. And it's now showing the average cost per click. So this can drastically simplify your dashboards, and instead of needing 6 charts to display all kinds of KPIs, you can consolidate that into one chart. Here as well, instead of viewing it by week, you can view it by month as well. Another example is drilling through to another dashboard from a specific data point. So if we take the Pens on Fire campaign, we can click that bar and click the Get Detailed Campaign Insights button, which actually opens up another dashboard with more information just about that campaign. So that's also a very cool use case. You can also, like I said, route users to other parts of your application. So again, if we take the Pens on Fire campaign, a user could click this bar again and click the Configure Campaign button, which routes them to another part of your application where they can make all kinds of changes to the email campaign based on the data that they saw in the embedded dashboards. I think that's about it for the demo platform. So I'll go back to the slides here. I promised you a demo of the custom events feature and how one of our clients uses that. So this is a very cool use case where one of our clients mapped a Luzmo dashboard onto a custom 3D model of an apartment building that they built. So you see the user is selecting something in the charts, and in the 3D model that they built, the correct segments of the building are lighting up. So clicking the bar sends the data that was clicked, and then you as the implementer can choose whatever you want with the data, can do whatever you want with that data. For example, highlighting specific segments in a 3D model. But with this feature, the sky is the limit and you can build anything that you want. So this is one very cool example of that. Interactivity is one thing, but you also want your dashboards to be accessible, of course. So we always preach some best practices there. Usually you want your dashboards to be accessible on multiple devices. So make sure that you optimize the various screen modes of your dashboard for mobile, for tablet, and for desktop viewing. You can set specific settings per screen mode for that. Usually your end users might be in multiple countries. So you might want to translate some of your dashboards into multiple languages, and the same for time zones and currencies. So just by changing the language selector or by correctly reading that from your database, your end user can see the dashboard customized to their language and to their time zone without them having to worry about that. Data security and multi-tenancy is also, of course, very important. You want your customer to see only their data and not be able to break out of that. We handled all of that out of the box with filtering to make sure your user only sees the data that is relevant to them. And then the last point is styling. You want your dashboards to be seamlessly embedded into your application so that it looks that the dashboards really are part of your own application. We have quite some styling options for that to really tweak the styling and make sure it fits nicely with the styling of your company and your application. So those are some best practices to follow to make sure the end user viewing your dashboards has a seamless experience.
All right, I can take over from here again. I just saw that there were some issues with the sound, so I hope you can hear me better now. If not, just let me know. I'll keep an eye on the chat. So yeah, finally, like being a SaaS business ourselves, we know how important it is to ship things fast. So you, of course, want to achieve the same thing for your analytical features and your dashboards. So to round off, we'll end up with a few tips on how to make the analytics sprint that you're planning as smooth as possible. Or if you're planning iterations on your sprint, of course, we can also help make these smoother. What we typically recommend is to start with a small MVP. So going back to what we said in the beginning about scoping your first sprint, we would recommend to start with, for example, one dashboard or a set of basic dashboards. Start building these out, launch these in your application so you can immediately get customer feedback and then improve based on the customer feedback that you're getting. For example, one of our customers, 𝗪𝗵𝗁, had taken this approach. So they started with a minimal set of dashboards. Yeah, we'll share the link to the case study afterwards. We'll also share all of the slides, so any links that are included in this presentation we'll share afterwards as well. So to go back to 𝗪𝗁, they built and deployed a minimal set of dashboards. They did that in 5 to 6 weeks. If we look at today, I think they've been a customer for around a year or two. They have 30 embedded dashboards available. They're not all available to all of their clients, but they're available based on a quite extensive and complex permission set that they can set up. So their users have the ability to say, this profile of user or this type of user should have access to this type of dashboard, etc. So they've gone pretty advanced. They've also been offering the dashboards in 3 different languages. So just to give you an example, that it sometimes helps to start with something small and then keep iterating on that, keep launching improvements so that you can immediately get feedback from your customers to improve, but you can also start offering value to your customers more quickly. One of the things that they have planned, for example, now is to add the option for customers to create their own variants of those dashboards that they offer as well, because they noticed that some power users really just need that amount of freedom or flexibility to look at very specific metrics that might not matter or might not be super relevant to all of their customer base. And then finally, it's always a good idea to set up a task force, especially if analytics is a big priority for you, to have more cross-team collaboration. You don't want an engineer to build this and not have any input from customer-facing teams, not have the marketing and sales team involved on how they can sell this towards customers or how they can launch this feature, communicate it to customers so that they can get more value out of it. So there we also recommend that from the start, you have a few people from different teams involved when you start building out those analytical features.
Of course, in the age of AI, you can use existing tools to leverage. You can use AI tools to quickly go from ideation phase to a working MVP. So for example, if you just have some basic idea for a dashboard you want to build and you literally scratch it on a piece of paper, we have built a quite cool showcase where you can go from a picture of a dashboard to a real Luzmo dashboard. So I will quickly show you how that works. It's called InstaCharts. So I've drawn a dashboard on paper here, and if I just hold that in front of my cam and take a picture of it, the InstaChart tool will transform that picture into a real working Luzmo dashboard that you can start from to further iterate upon. So let's wait a few seconds for the dashboard to build. It's creating all those metrics for me. And there we go. We have exactly the charts that I asked for in my drawn dashboards. And if I want to start from here as an MVP, I can click the Edit in Luzmo button, which takes me straight to Luzmo, and I can start editing the dashboard there to my preference. So that's a cool feature we have to quickly go from ideation to a real working MVP. All right.
All right, that's everything we had prepared for today. I see we had a few questions in the questions tab that we can take now. Of course, feel free to keep them coming if you have any additional ones. What is the difference between drill downs and drill through? I think, Yannick, you covered this later on in the demo as well, but the main difference is that drill down is when you have one chart that says, for example, revenue per month over time. You can also drill down into a deeper level, like see it per week for, let's say, January or February, see it per day, etc. So it all happens within the same chart. And then drill through is when you click on one element in a dashboard and you want to see more detailed information about that specific element in a second dashboard. So could be a list of people in your email marketing list, and you want to see the specific engagement for one of these people that drills down into a new dashboard showing, for example, open rates, click-through rates, which emails they engage with for that specific person. How does the MD picker work, the measure dimension picker? Murat, not sure if this is still unclear. I think we can quickly share the example again.
Yeah, sure. I'll share it.
All right, cool.
So basically, you set up your chart to contain one specific measure. Right here, it's number of clicks right now per campaign, but you can also configure which other measures or metrics your end user can select from to also view. So you see right now in the dropdown that number of clicks is selected by default, but your end user can choose to see number of followers gained per campaign or average cost per click per campaign, so they can have some selection in which metric they want to see in this chart. Did that clear it up, Murat?
Looks like it did, yes. Awesome. How did you set up the filtered email campaign function? Yes, that is through custom events, I believe, right, Yannick?
Yes, and there's also a function to read the active filters in a dashboard and to get the active data in a chart. So basically, we combine those two to first read the filters and then read the data from the table to show, and then send the data into some custom flow.
The next one, can the MD picker be used for currency conversion if we want to offer the amount in different currencies?
Yes, if you have the different amounts in different columns in your data sets, you could add all those to your chart and let the user pick. But it won't be optimal user experience because the user will still have to select which metric they want to see. I think it's better to use the currency override feature for that. I can send some documentation about that.
Then 𝗪𝗏𝗿𝗹 asked, how can I manage the language of a dashboard automatically? Yannick, is that one you'd also like to take?
Yeah, so we handle authentication with something we call the embed token. And on the level of the embed token, you can set the language of the dashboard. So first you have to build the dashboard in multiple languages. And then you have to, when your user is logging into your application, probably somewhere you have some logic on which language that user is using or should use. And you can use that from your own user management to set that on the embed token in Luzmo. And the embedded dashboard will automatically load in the correct language that you set up.
I saw there was also a question, two more questions about InstaCharts. So how can we access it? Just drop the link in the chat. We'll also send the link in the follow-up email. So any resources that we discussed here, we'll make sure that everyone who attended or registered will receive those. And then the final one from 𝗪𝗲𝗿𝗹𝗹, is your data already available for the InstaChart app when it builds the dashboard from the mockup picture?
In the example that I showed, no. So it made up data that's contained in the charts then. But I think we have a next iteration of InstaChart ready where you can actually use your existing data sets to build charts on. So that would cover your use cases. If you want, I'll check with the team how exactly, if that's already available or not, and then we can send you the information about that.
Yeah, I believe it just got released last week. But yeah, I'm not sure if it's publicly available yet, so it would be good if you could confirm that, Yannick. But basically, I think the difference would just be that you have to log into your account so they can use the data that you have available there. Does this have additional cost or is it part of Luzmo license? 𝗪𝗏𝗿𝗹𝗹, do you mean the InstaChart feature? Because that one is currently available freely. So that one you can use as part of the Luzmo license, but even if you don't have an account, you can use it. But then again, it would just build the dashboards based on dummy data. Looks like we have covered all questions up to now, unless let me know if we missed any, or if you have any more, feel free to drop them in the chat right now. Otherwise, I think that concludes our webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, we have a next one coming up in about 2 weeks. We'll share the information for that one in the follow-up email as well, but that one will be on how to drive product adoption. We're organizing that one together with another SaaS company called Start Deliver, who has a bit more experience in customer success. So it will be a nice combination between customer success tactics, product-driven tactics to improve product adoption. It looks like that was all in terms of.
Your sound dropped again.
And hope to see you on the next one. Have a good day.
Thanks everyone for joining.